Hello and welcome to today's webinar in the SmartEnCity Network Webinar series. My name is Simon Sørensen and I'm part of the SmartEnCity project and the SmartEnCity Network, and today I have the pleasure to introduce and coordinate a webinar about citizen engagement, and today we will be introduced to citizen engagement from both an overall generic perspective, and we will also dig into concrete experiences from both Spain and Denmark. Firstly, I will just shortly introduce the SmartEnCity project. It's a project funded under the European Union's Horizon 2020 program, where we are 35 partners from 6 different countries that try to develop strategies that can be replicated throughout all cities in Europe, and we try to develop a systemic approach for transforming these cities. And one of the key parts of the project is to make our experiences and learnings available to other cities, and part of the project is to develop a SmartEnCity network where we try to make these experiences available for other cities. So the SmartEnCity network is developed for cities to sign up to be part of this learning process and to be in the loop of the experiences that we have. A part of this SmartEnCity network has been to introduce this webinar series where we try to make webinars that can inspire other cities and cities or city planners, policymakers, companies, etc., to see and to know about what other cities do in terms of transition. And this is one of the ways that we want to share our knowledge, and all the webinars from this webinar series is and will be available online at the SmartEnCity website, smartencity.eu. So this is an overview of the 5 topics that we will address in the webinar series. Today we are at number 3, which is about how to empower your city transition and citizen engagement. We already had number 1 and 2 about strategic energy planning in countries and cities and facilitating energy transition at city level, and in April and May we will also have webinars about energy retrofitting of buildings and low carbon mobility. But today is about citizen engagement. You can watch webinar 1 and 2 on smartencity.eu under publications and webinars. And today's webinar will, as mentioned already, also be online shortly after we finish. So moving more into the topic of today, this is what we will go through. So right now I'm doing the introduction to the topic, and soon I will also present the presenters. But the webinar will be divided into 3 parts. So first part, or part 1, is about citizen engagement in a generic perspective, where we are introduced to learnings about citizen engagement that are being applied through a CES model, which is based on experiences from the lighthouse cities in the SmartEnCity project. Then in part 2 and part 3 we will dive more into concrete experiences from cities that have been doing citizen engagement actions and what their learnings have been and what results they have had. So part 2 will be about Vitoria-Gasteiz in Spain, and then in part 3 we will learn about Sønderborg in Denmark. And then when we finish we will have a small question session if anyone has questions during the webinar, and a short introduction to next webinars. This is the presenters of today. So from Enea Living Lab we have Eukene Barranetxea and Xabier Gorritxategi, and they both work with citizen engagement activities in their daily professions, and they are both involved in the SmartEnCity project, where they have been coordinating learnings across the 3 lighthouse cities in the project. and they have also been specifically involved in the citizen activities in Victoria Gas Days. Then from Denmark we have Peter Rathje and Henrik Bielefeldt, both from Project Zero organization that is located in Sønderborg, and they both also work with citizen engagement in Project Zero and in Sønderborg, and have various experiences in citizen engagement actions in Sønderborg and how to make it a part of the transition towards a zero community, zero CO2 community. So, and as mentioned before, if you should have questions during this webinar, please write them in the question box that you can find in the panel, at the GoToWebinar panel, and then we will try to answer them at the end of the webinar. You can also email questions afterwards to my email address, which is sss@planenergy.dk. So this was my introduction, and now we will move on to first part one about citizen engagement in a generic perspective. I will give the floor to Eukene, and then when Eukene is finished, we will move directly towards the concrete experiences from Victoria Gas Days, which will be presented by Xabier. So just 1 second, then I will hand over the presenting role to Eukene. And so Eukene, you have to unmute yourself, then we can start.
One moment, please. No, now it's okay. I cannot listen to you. Yeah? Okay. I'm on. So we are we start with this generic perspective of the citizen engagement, and we start with the why. Why citizen engagement? Citizen engagement, or society participation, is seen as a necessary driver to make solutions come into place, as it will inevitably target the policy level that can make things happen. The world is full of technical solutions, for example, district heating for your energy system or biking for your mobility system. Solutions will not come into place until you start addressing the policy level and until you create a movement in your society participation. This is why citizen engagement is the fundamental purpose to enable better decision making and improve democratic process through ownership, legitimacy, transparency and trust. There are many versions and schools on citizen engagement, and it can take many forms. Citizen engagement is highly influenced by many factors, as culture, society, structure, etc. Today's presentation of citizen engagement, this part one, is generic perspective of the citizen engagement, and we are describing the CES model. This is a specific approach to citizen engagement developed on experiences from the lighthouse cities and other examples in the world. It is action-oriented, focused on how to apply citizen engagement in practice. How each city designs and implements its strategy depends on many different aspects. A full-year action research process has been designed and implemented, As a result, 9 fundamental areas have been defined as key elements that, interconnected, play a fundamental role in engaging citizens. Let's start with these fundamental areas. Who are the decision makers for the strategies and implementations, and how these implementations are being done? Each city has a different governance culture. Governance can be different depending on the city. Some questions can help to identify this aspect. For example, which is the list of stakeholders that is defining the citizen engagement process for the activities you are planning in your city? Who validates the strategy? How do they make decisions? How is the district where you are working organized? How are decisions made? About the governance, about this whole, as example, this area can be divided in more specific subcategories. Let's put some examples. You can have a promoter group or a steering committee guaranteeing a smooth and efficient development of the project's value proposals. You can have also a model group, communication and citizen engagement committees to promote and guarantee the community involvement and citizen engagement. You can also have a neighborhood node, structured organizations connected to neighborhoods. You can also ask your why. Why are we doing this citizen engagement activity, for example? Which are the purposes of the citizen engagement strategy in your city? As example, in the SmartEnCity project, the purpose why can be divided in 2 subcategories. One category can be educational programs or similars and activities to reduce the carbon emissions. Can also be that another category is that you include activities in which users are involved for the development of low carbon economy products and services. Another key area is the to whom. The same segments are target groups. To whom are we delivering the activities? We should identify and classify the groups and segments we are targeting the activities. As example, in the district renovation and refurbishing proposal, some classification have been made. Citizens, for example, as a target audience that need to be informed about the project. This is more related to the communication area, marketing area. Another can be the district area. In the district area, there are some interaction spaces from different citizens of the district. As example, the civic center, the swimming pool, the park. Another example is the neighborhood associations or house associations and community of property owners. That's another target. Another target can be the house owners and house locators. This is in the case of refurbishing proposal, house refurbishing proposals. But it's also important to take in account another element in this strategy. For example, which is the demographic structure of the district intervention area? If the aim is to introduce smart technologies, it's important to take this aspect in account. Also, socioeconomic characteristics are important. And the third aspect for the strategy is which are the decision-making units in the district area we are working. For example, neighborhood organizational system should be clear to understand the decision-making processes. Another key area, with whom are we designing and implementing the inclusion of the citizen into the process? Some cities will have more clear organization channels and methods to engage people to create the transitions towards smart zero carbon cities around certain value proposals. And they also will have these educational aspects more worked. But all those cities will have to start nearly from scratch. Actors we work with can be former actors that are accomplishing a formally designed function. For example, a president in a certain association. There are also actors that can play an important role in the engagement process, not having a formal assigned role, but feeling motivated with the project activity and mission. The less formal actors you have to cover the mission, the more informal actors, also call it informal leaders, you will have to attract to the project. Another key area is what benefits people by attending to an educative program or purchasing a particular product or service from a vendor. When the information strategy works in the right direction, the result can be that the citizen and different target groups increase their positive perception of the project proposals. The recommended steps are: people who are governing the project or project activity decide what to communicate about the project at a certain point of the process. Secondly, they deliver information around what to do and what to communicate. Third, they communicate and contrast. And the fourth step is get feedback from the proposal. The communication is also important. There are two aspects in this area. One more related with online and media communication channels for the citizen target audience. And the other one is the offline face-to-face activities related to community development. Activities like public or private meetings, workshops, surveys. Community engagement is about taking care about these two elements. From one side, protecting the brand of the SmartEnCity project and its represented institutions through communication and transparency. And from another, building trust around the project value proposal, even if it's educative or if it's a service or product. Building trust around the project value proposal, which needs to be followed with a face-to-face strategy. Reshaping value proposition, this feedback, and setting desired results is a very important key part. When engaging citizens, they want to see the results of their engagement. Feedback culture should be introduced in the value proposition development processes. Citizen feedback is key in these processes. One very challenging thing is defining the citizen role in this feedback process, because citizens need to understand the impact of their participation. Understandable messages and contents are necessary. What about the spaces? Spaces are also important. There are real and virtual spaces where things will happen around the project. Physical spaces can be office, civic centers, neighborhoods, libraries, house association rooms, homes where smart meters are being installed. Online spaces are new or existing web pages and social networks. And it can be also a mixture, places where the project can be connected physically and digitally with demo building, smart meters, platforms and webs. One of the challenges this project faces is to prevent that the citizens have the perception of a fragmented engagement experience around the project. The fragmentation experience can be avoided, creating a story where citizens see a relation in between real and virtual engagement. Let's start with the how. The how is the area where all the key points converge into one strategy. The city background, how the strategy is governed, the kind of key actors that are collaborating in the process, and the kind of service, product, or education proposal that needs to be addressed to the citizens. These all factors determine the final result of the strategy that will be designed. Each city will have a different background on implementing educational programs related to emission reductions, and also different experiences to generate conditions to introduce innovative low carbon emission product and services. The type of service or product makes also a difference in the strategy. Refurbishing value proposals differ from mobility value proposals. The higher is the investment per citizen, the longer it takes to engage people. Citizen engagement processes that include low carbon emission service product offers are generally innovative. This means that the citizen educational aspects need to be incorporated in the process, making people aware of the situation and engaging them in programs, for example, behavioral changes. People will need information to be involved in a meaningful way, especially when they are not much familiar, when there are not much familiar success cases you can show, something that frequently happens in innovation projects. People will need to be involved in a meaningful way. And a fragmented story is like a film with a bad script. In this sense, you cannot reproduce what happened to someone else. The fragmentation experience can be avoided creating a story. The citizen can be at the same time observers or protagonists of the story. There is no unique recipe for citizen engagement strategies. The design must be adapted to each reality. The CES model is an open frame that helps you to start and develop a process that is divided in key areas that work independently and interdependently. Your initial conditions are the basis from which you can go forward. The next slide shows the CES model canvas application in the Vitoria-Gasteiz case, which will be described now in the second part.
Hi, this is Xabier Gorritxategi, and I'm going to explain to you how this CES model has been implemented in practice into the Vitoria-Gasteiz case. We had this overall frame that was presented in the earlier presentation, and what we are going to do now is to have a little zoom in each of the key areas, in each of the key boxes of this canvas. And we'll start by the why. The purpose of the whole program, why Vitoria-Gasteiz is in the SmartEnCity project. Vitoria-Gasteiz started years ago getting to transform into a city being a reference in the environmental issues and promoting the transitions for the getting as a European green capital. And the next step was getting to the transition into a neutral CO2 city. So to start with this, Vitoria-Gasteiz aims to renovate the various neighborhoods that have in the city, and starting with the Coronation neighborhood, which is the one that is within the SmartEnCity project, as a first pilot. To do that, we jump now into who are the ones taking that responsibility, making those decisions, the governance of the project. To set up that process, a steering committee was created, a promoter group. This is the group that is having the proactive role to ignite and guarantee smoothly and efficiently this development in the project. Within this group are the Basque government, represented by Visesa. On the other hand is the council, the town council of Vitoria-Gasteiz. It is also the leader of the SmartEnCity project, Tecnalia, the research platform, and two private groups like Mondragon Corporation, cooperative corporation that is taking responsibility of many tasks regarding to the smart interconnections, and Giroa Veolia, that is the company leading the district heating installation. This committee also has created another motor group that we'll explain now, that is in charge of the communication and the citizen engagement activities. This is the motor group, the one that really makes things happen. This motor group is not a static group. It's something that goes changing as it goes and as the conditions change. This group has the role of informing people on one hand, which is the communication part, and on the other hand, to get into the citizen engagement or involvement people. This group, as I said, is changing its role and members as necessities or conditions change along the project. For instance, now in 2017, now with the refurbished area, this committee is getting specifically into the citizen engagement activities. To whom? Here, as Eukene presented before, is one of the key elements we need to understand well, and in each city who we are addressing to. In the case of Vitoria-Gasteiz, the refurbishing is offered to private owners. And these owners, the decision-making units, are into some community of property owners that are the decision-making units that are going to say yes or no to the intervention. So these owners have to pay the refurbishing, so it's overall it's a sale of those services. So the total amount of this community of property owners in the intervention area is 108, and each community of property owners is composed more or less between 4 to 12 apartments or dwellings. So we are getting to an overall area of 1,305 dwellings with its correspondent owners. And to give you another important data to know who we are addressing to, if we take those 108 communities, in 48 of them, the average aging of the owners is older than 65 years old. And we are getting to them with some smart solutions that usually they are not used to. So to make the bridge between the who, the governance of the project, of the intention, the purpose, and to whom we are addressing, it is important with whom we are doing it and which key actors and roles, formal and informal, and it was presented, are in the middle. And these are becoming the collaborators that make the engaging process easier. In Vitoria-Gasteiz, another difference we have, important difference we have with respect to the other two cities in the SmartEnCity project, is that there is no house association that can work as a node to socialize or to communicate the project. And this is a big difference, because what implies is that it's needed to get more capillary, to get to more people and not going only to one place. So different alliances are made during the SmartEnCity engagement process to ease that part. In this case, Eukene Living Lab has been and is still been dynamizing and advising in these interaction processes. One of the first alliances is with the neighborhood associations and district located public services, which are interested or could be interested in this intervention being made. And secondly, and as we have to go into a more private area because each of the owners has to buy in the proposal, the City Council Refurbish Agency, already formed before the project was on, is like a citizen office that is open for all the citizens but has been specialized for this special project. We're getting now to give some details, simplified of course, because if not it would be too complicated, on the how, no? Giving some slides or some frames on what has been done or is about to be done. First, it was made a dissemination of the SmartEnCity project based on big events. It was a big community of people in the neighborhood that needed to be reached, so they were invited, and it was done with collaboration of all these existing district associations, network, and public services. That was done. But then, once the first information part was done overall as a general audience, another important step was given and was doing meetings with each one of the 108 community of property owners, the 1,305 dwellings. The objective of the project is getting to a minimum of 750 owners that buy in the refurbishment proposal. So creating an alliance with the Vitoria-Gasteiz Refurbish Agency and locating the engagement process in their office, which is very near to the pilot area, this also has helped a lot because it's an open space that is open for the citizens in normal timing. Sharing information of the value proposal, even more points also, are all ready to define. For example, the new district heating monthly service cost that still is under defining, but this overall information is already open for the public. Another step that actually we are now on is getting into the involvement of lead users. This is a key element of the strategy and is getting a number of 15 people that will be the lead users in Vitoria-Gasteiz for this intervention area. these 15 people will take part in a program. A more defined value proposal related to product and service will be shared and contrasted and with educational aspects related to energy savings and life quality increase. And with this will be a more detailed working into those intangible aspects that are important to be like a educational program. So once this program is finished successfully, they will be able to capture and attract more interested people, like becoming advocates of the program. This is under development now. And with this over, the idea is to spread the experience over other 15 lead users to other people of the target group, which will be named as followers. And now we are coming to what for the citizens is becoming one of the most important things, and is what they are going to be touching and what we are going to be experiencing, and it's the value proposition. The product service system has been defined and has been published in different exhibitions and has been communicated in detail to each of the community owners. The main aspects that are into this proposal are the house energy refurbishment, which includes the insulation, the new low energy windows and doors, installation of ventilation systems with heat recovery, and among other measures, which will significantly drop the energy demand of the buildings. Also, the district heating, a biomass district heating, a formula that is not very common in the Basque area, with difference to the other parts in Europe, and of course the price. The price that in this case it will be around 21,000 euros on average, but with the different hubs it could be about half of it. And then the payback that is long, so that's why all these other intangible aspects need to be informed. Also, there are some tax benefits that could be diminishing the payback period. Apart from the value proposition itself, among what is the educational program? The education program is conducted by the 15 lead users, and it will be done during this year, 2017. These educational aspects will be related to the renewable energy use, energy saving, and life quality increase. When we go to communication aspects, we are talking of events. We refer to the informative event that assisted 350 people. There were done some district renovation information too, with 175 assistants. They have been done exhibitions too on the district renovation part, that as the district heating is going to be done, some neighborhood areas are going to be renovated, and also the house refurbishing option exhibition. Leaflets with general information, boards, and meetings, the refer meetings on 180. All these refer like touch points that are making that story that we were making reference before. And the scenes where that story is taking place, the places, depending on the assistance, if we move in the real area, in the real world, different buildings have been, spaces have been used. The Europe Palace for the 350 people, the District Civic Center for 200. The associations have a house with different rooms there, quite good for 40 people, or the citizen office that is for 20. The idea is to have a demo building that still is not yet constructed, but it should be like a very important touch point for the rest of the neighborhood and the owners. And these houses with the smart meters that will have that are projected to be between 500 and 600 that will be installed soon. On the virtual side, the Vitoria-Gasteiz Council web is already on with all the SmartEnCity project information, and a more specific platform is underway. And to finish on the reshaping the value proposition, here is critical to understand that it has to be done in a way that is creating a communication between the who and the to whom with the target audience. And here we have to talk in understandable messages. And things like that is like making questions about the project and solving some of the doubts in events, exhibitions and meetings, or the face-to-face places, are giving us the opportunity to propose ideas or receive citizen feedback about this renovation proposal. That has happened quite nicely. Also, owners could express doubts about the building retrofitting project proposal, and spaces are created and to co-create solutions. And even offering more concrete features about building retrofitting proposal and opening spaces for questions and suggestions. That has happened, and some of the things make sense. So that has been all.
Yeah, so thank you, Xabier, and thank you, Eukene, before you. That was really interesting, and we will now quickly move on to part 3, where we will be introduced to experiences from Sønderborg, presented by Peter Rathje and Henrik Bielefeldt. And I will just hand over the presenter role. So, Henrik, if you unmute yourself, then you should be ready.
So, yeah, good afternoon. This is Peter and Henrik speaking here. Thank you, Simon, and thank you all of you for listening and sharing also the experience from Sønderborg. We are going to talk about citizen engagement and also citizen participation, because these are for Project Zero similar words. We can come back to definitions later. Looking into why is this important, 10 years back the City Council of Sønderborg decided to take Sønderborg, all citizens, 76,000 people, all businesses, all schools, the university, kids and adults of all ages on a journey to become a zero carbon community. Not sometime in long future, but by 2029. The aim is, of course, not only to do the transition, which is important to the climate, but also to create and harvest what we call green jobs. Our approach when we started and also since have been based on a holistic thinking where a public-private partnership have been core. When we started, we thought that technology and solutions were core to achieving our goals. Later we found out that business, participation and actually a new thinking in whole society is really what's required to be successful. Our participation journey started with building a house out of the ordinary. This is a house that has a surplus of energy. It was built 9 years back when the perception of houses or homes were that, of course, homes and houses and families would use energy, but this house actually provide the sufficient energy to service a family of 5 people. We learned from that house that the mindset actually could be inspired and be changed, and we have seen that new houses, new homes, new municipal buildings, new schools, sport facilities, and even the urban planning is now going zero and have since 2009 taken that turn. At the bottom you see a very huge project, transition project for a new part of Sonderborg. It's called the Gary Harbor project. This was also inspired by this process, actually starting with one house. So our learning definitely is focus on the buildings and make sure that you, from the starting point, have minimum one extremely good case. The maybe most successful project engagement projects so far have been what we call the Zero Home project. We have 18,600 owners of private homes. You can see a picture of a typical Danish private home built in the 70s using a lot of energy. So there's a lot of jobs to be done because majority of these houses are built before anybody started really addressing the climate or the energy challenge. So we have listed here a number of focus areas: the house construction, the building envelope, insulation, but also including the appliances and the mindset. What we found was to stimulate and actually catalyze the process of citizen engagement, we had to add a catalyzer, and that catalyzer became the Charlie. That's his name, and you'll see a picture of Charlie. Charlie has become very famous in our area and is not only a technical expert here, but also a person who can lead and coordinate and bridge the gap between the house owners and the other stakeholders. And I think core of what Charlie have been doing here is to make sure it's easy, it's safe, and it's economic viable for the owners. We have worked very much with strengthening the craftsman competences. We have talked to all banks and financial institutions, and we have made it very easy and simple. And look at the impact here. A lot of homes have been visited in the last 4 or 5 years. 65% of families being visited having this energy consultancy and a discussion and connecting the stakeholders here have decided to do an energy retrofit, investing their own money. A lot of energy have been saved, a lot of jobs have been created, and we assume today that more than 3,500 homeowners of these 18,600 have now started their energy renovation journey, and they are all open to learn more about the next step, and definitely they are also inspiring the societies around them. We also learned that to have kids switch off the lights, so to say, we had to start early. So we created a kindergarten, or it actually starts in pre-kindergarten and it goes all the way to university. So we say from kindergarten to PhD, we have to make sure that kids know why we do this for the environment, for the climate, and what needs to be done. That have led us to have the City Council adopt a green teaching plan addressing the core teaching in elementary and mid-school, where kids here in Sonderborg learn about the buildings, they learn about how these buildings can use less energy, and they become what we call small Charlies. They become energy consultants. When they progress in the education system, they learn about more complex system, and we are very confident they will not only be good engineers, they will also be very good citizens, or whatever they want to do later in life. We have in the presentation, you can download, added 3 more cases, but my job is right now just to try to sum up on some of the learnings from the citizen engagement and participation here in Sonderborg. We have learned it's important to have a vision. It's very important that this vision is close to the target group, and also that we have learned in the other presentations you are able to answer what's in it for me, for each of the people, because this is about people. It's very important that you have a visible role model. Everything, the journey here started with a home, with a house, but I think if you want people to start biking or using electrical cars or whatever you want them to do, create a visible role model. You also need to do some initial thinking about how do you get to the first 5 families or 5 people, and how do you add more to have more ambitious milestones, and I think that the journey should not end until you are at full scale, whatever you want to create participation around. We have also learned that there's not one book that you can look into and you can learn all about this. So it's about planning, do, check, and act. We need probably a lot of education or enlightening. We need to make it easy for citizens to participate, and therefore also to have a step-by-step approach. We need to secure that also in the cases I told about, that the craftsmen are on board, and communication definitely is not only key but also king to become successful. And again, we need to remember this is about people. I will now hand over the presentation to Henrik. Henrik will talk about a new project that we are doing inside the SmartEnCity project.
Yeah, thank you. I will address what we have been making in the SmartEnCity project. Our challenge is retrofitting, or one of the challenges is retrofitting in housing associating buildings, and how can we improve the citizen engagement, both in saving energy in their own home, but also to involve them in the building retrofitting. And why is that important? It is important because the resident has 2 roles to play in the housing association. First of all, they have their own home. How are their behavior? Do they recycle? And what are their interests? Are they interested in the environment, or are they only looking at their own daily life? Then they have another and more important role. They are the decision makers when we have to introduce retrofittings. To get retrofittings done, they meet every year at a resident meeting, and that is where they have the possibility to reject or move forward with retrofitting. When we started the process and looked at housing association, the first thing that we saw was, or met, was the administration and the organizational board. But the organizational board and administration are only informal leaders. They can make suggestions, they can make policies, but the formal leadership and the people who has actually the power to make these retrofittings are the residents, are at the resident meetings where they elect a department board, and that is actually here that the changes are possible to make. And our thesis is that if we want residents to be more engaged in retrofitting, we have to learn them and tell them about what are they able to do in their own homes to make them more interested in becoming a part of the retrofitting project. But when we are looking at the residents, we saw that the residents are a complex group. As you can see on the age structure in a resident or in a department, it is a very complex group, and there isn't a majority that you can call to. And you need a majority to get a retrofitting project accomplished. And if you look at what are their motivational factors, well, some are already interested in changing windows and are looking at their own pocket. Can I save money? Some are interested in getting a playground for their kids. Somebody wants a place to park their car. So we have to find out what key areas should we address when we are addressing the residents. In order to learn that, we have made a project where we are engaging with 25 families, learning what's important for them, how can we motivate them, what kind of media should we approach if we want to tell them about retrofitting projects or how they can change their own behavior in their own apartments. We started out making one workshop, and the way we do is we plan one workshop, then we have it, and then afterwards we evaluate it with the participant and in the steering committee, and then we go back and we act and we plan the next workshop. So this is a process where we are learning all the way every workshop is its own, and we haven't planned them all ahead of the project. This does that we are able to act on what we are learning, and we can implement that in the process, and thereby we are getting stronger and stronger and learning more and more about what are the residents actually concerned about, how can we address them, and how can we then implement changes so that they want to make retrofittings but also make changes in their own home. So this leads on to the next step in our process. We are going to develop a playbook. How can we learn the housing association to implement citizen engagementship? We'll do that in 3 levels. How can the administration do changes? How can the organizational board? And then most of all, how can the department make changes? This leads on to the next step, because we have 10,000 homes, and what we have learned is that we start with 25 and we have to scale up to 10,000. But where to start? And we will develop a method where we can analyze each department. Where are there more opportunities and where are the scale for success higher? We will do that by finding out the resident composition, the age structure, and so on. There is various parameters that we can segment them by. And then we will look also at the buildings. What are the meter opportunities and what are the limitations? Because one of the learnings already is if they can't measure their own energy consumption, it's really hard to motivate residents. You need to be able to see if what you're doing also have an impact. That brings me to one of the last things. What have we learned? We have learned how important it is to us to identify the stakeholders and also the stakeholders' roles in the decision making. It is not enough that we have a good collaboration with the administration and organizational board, because that doesn't secure that they are voting the right thing at the resident meetings. We have also learned that we need to start small and learn. We can't approach 10,000 homes at once. Starting out with 25 families and then, as Peter told, scale up the process. And then we have learned we need to identify the segments. We need to find out what are they aiming for. Are they looking to retrofit because they want to save money? Is it because they want to increase their welfare? Or what are their actual motivation factors? And this will then lead us on to hopefully getting a success with implementation of the citizen engagement. And this was what we have now from Sønderborg. We are still in the process, and what's most important for us is that we are still learning, and we are developing methods that we can adapt that learning. So we are planning as we go and adapting all the learnings from each project every time.
Yeah, thank you Henrik and Peter for a very interesting presentation. And now we already almost used the full hour, so the question part will be really short, but I will really encourage you, if you have questions, please email me at the sss@planenergi.dk. I didn't receive any questions in the question box, but if you have any, please let me know. Yeah, you can see the email here, and this webinar will be available online at the SmartEnCity website. And of course, we will encourage all cities that are interested to join our network, and you can also sign up for the newsletter about the SmartEnCity project. But with these words, I'm just going to introduce the next 2 webinars that we will have in April and May. So right now we have had 1, 2, and 3. And then the next 2 will be about energy retrofitting and low carbon mobility. So that was it for today. So thank you very much for listening, and see you.